today was Media Day, and some interesting things coming from Media Day. Michael Kaskey Blomain from CBS Sports. He joins us now to talk a little bit more about what we learned entering camp as the Sixers. A lot of high expectations, Michael, and Brett Brown said it last week. They want the number 1 seed, and to do it, they're going to need an expanded game from Ben Simmons. So we've all been waiting. We've all been talking. But do you have a better level of confidence that we will see a different Ben Simmons this year, my friend?
I think so, Mike. I think Ben is really focused coming into this season. Not that he hasn't been in the past, but he kind of said today that it was almost like a flip kind of just switched in his head this summer. He doesn't know necessarily how or why, like nothing really changed. But this summer he said it kind of just like he kind of pushed it into a new, like a third gear that he hasn't reached yet and just put in, a different amount of work than he has in the past. He said he's feeling, better and more confident in his shot than he has in the past. It's obviously one of those things. That's lip service, and obviously we're all waiting and we need to see it. But he's approaching it as he always has. He's understated. He doesn't really want to talk about it too much, but it seems like, he has the attitude to kind of go out there and show us all what everyone's been waiting to see.
That, of course, is some sort of jumper, right? And I don't know that we're going to see this guy shooting 40, 50% from three-point range or anything. But did he directly say, yep, I mean, I see tweets saying if I'm open, I'm going to shoot, as opposed to what he said in the past is kind of – he's never really directly answered those questions in the past.
Yeah, I think he's not shying away from that as much as he has before, Mike. He's not leaving it as vague. Like you said, that was his direct answer. He was asked, point blank, are you going to take them? And he said, if I'm open, I'm going to shoot them. Brett said the other day that he's going to take Ben out of that low post dunker spot when he's off ball and shift him out to the corners. And then when he's out there, Brett's going to expect him to, not jack up threes willy-nilly, but if the ball gets swung to him and he's open in the corner, the team and Brett wants to see Ben take that shot, and he said that he's going to take it. So, for now we have to take him at his word and hope that he does.
Something interesting. What's up, MKB? It's Ryan. Long time no talk. Glad to have you back on with us. Simmons said this, and I'm just going to read it off for the listeners. I think I was just too worried about what people were saying and what was going on around me, outside noises, and I was able to really block them out this summer and not really focus on what people were saying. At the end of the day, I don't really care anymore unless it's coming from someone in my circle or somebody that's trying to help me get better. And that right there is the most positive thing that I've seen or heard from Ben in a while, because he's basically acknowledging that it did get to him and he did hear it and he did think about it and it was impacting his game. So there you go. For all the people that looked half crazy saying he's afraid to shoot, he's acknowledging that did let it get to him, and the first step in admitting you have a problem is coming out and saying it, right? So I'm confident that he is going to change what he's been doing. I don't know what it is, but a big part, I think, is Jimmy Butler leaving. Now, I want your thoughts on that and what you think about that whole situation.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Ryan. I think it's a thing where, it's easy to say from an outside perspective, sure. You're a professional athlete. You shouldn't let what, people on Twitter or people on the local radio stations are saying, you shouldn't care about that. It's easy to say that. But if you're a young guy, 20, 21, 22, like Ben, that's getting so much attention, both good and bad, it's understandable that, someone would, kind of listen to that, maybe pay a little bit too much attention to that. And I think, like you said, Ryan, the fact that he, kind of recognized that about himself and said, you know what, I'm spending a little bit too much time and attention listening to these people that aren't helping me at all. They're not doing anything to help me improve my game. And, if he's acknowledging that and he's able to, kind of compartmentalize that from now on moving forward. And, I'm sure he's still going to hear the rumblings, he's not immune to it. He's going to be on social media. But if he can, kind of just keep that in his back pocket and not let it impact what he actually does out on the floor, that's a huge step moving forward for him. So I definitely think that, his approach, at least everything he said today, was the right things. It's a wait and see, obviously, but I think he's definitely moving in the right direction. And I do agree. I don't think he had an issue like necessarily with Jimmy as a person. There was never any tension like that, Ryan. But I definitely agree. I think that at times especially by the playoffs, Jimmy had come to have such an integral role of a playmaker in the team that Ben was in this position in the dunker spot a lot of the time that he's just not familiar with, not comfortable with, and that's not, how he grew up playing basketball. He likes to have the ball in his hands. He likes spreading it around, getting his teammates involved. And I think he felt his ability to do that was probably minimized to an extent with Jimmy. Now, obviously, with Jimmy gone at the beginning of the summer, him and Joel both, they both said they realized that with those guys, Jimmy and JJ gone, more pressure to score on the offense was going to come on their shoulders and that they kind of needed to respond. And I think that definitely, probably played a part in the motivation that Ben had this summer to kind of just lock in and block out all that outside noise.
Absolutely. And now transitioning and looking ahead to this version of the Philadelphia 76ers. It's great that Ben comes out and says that. There's people out there screaming for him to take three-pointers. I have never been in that mindset. I know you haven't been either. Correct me if I'm wrong. But for us, I think it's more about him being aggressive, picking his spots, not being afraid to get to the foul line late in games, and just finishing around the rim. He did say that he was working on his floater game and just touch around the rim and all that stuff. So what version can you expect to see from Ben? And what version is most important to see from Ben with this new look?
I think you said the main word there, Ryan, which was aggression. I think, we all want to see, and, the Sixers are at their best when Ben is aggressive, which, it doesn't necessarily mean, like you said, I don't want to see him just go out and jack up threes or, every time he has the opportunity. But when he's just dedicated to scoring, getting into the paint, and then adding, just a 50-foot jumper to keep the defense honest, which will in turn, open things up for the rest of the team, which lets him do his natural thing in passing. I think that's what's really going to unlock this team. He needs to be, in attack mode all the time from, getting defensive rebounds, pushing the tempo, pushing the break. And then in the half-court set, when it's not on a fast break, he needs to be able to, feel comfortable dipping into the paint. And if nothing's there, stepping back and pulling up, because that will, make that defense step out. And in turn, next possession, he can blow by and dish it off to the rest of the guys. There's everyone that talked today on the Sixers talked about how much talent there is on the roster, and especially in the starting five. And I think, Ben is probably the most important piece to helping all those guys reach their potential as the point guard.
MKB's with us. Michael Kaskey Blomain, of course, used to read him at 97.3 ESPN.com. He's gone national. He's with CBSSports.com now covering the Sixers. And today at Media Day, while Simmons' comments took a lot of the attention, how about Joel Embiid's appearance? What did you see there? Was it a noticeable change? We had heard he's cut weight, and that was a big question mark in the offseason. Was he going to dedicate himself and shed that weight? Did you see a slimmer Joel?
Yeah, Mike, definitely. He looks lean. He said that he lost 20 pounds. Actually, he said that he lost 25, but then he put on an extra 5 right at the end of the summer. But he said he's going to knock that 5 back off again. But, he looks lean. He looks dedicated, obviously tall. He said he put on some muscle, too. So, I mean, he obviously took it very seriously this offseason. He said he took it the most serious in terms of he didn't make huge tweaks to his diet, but he just was really focused, he said, on his workouts and eating, better and keeping things in moderation and then, just hitting the gym. So I think that he obviously talked about how much that loss to the Raptors in Game 7 hurt and how, he kind of used that as motivation throughout the summer. He said that he wants to play more games this season than he has in the past. He played 64 last year. He played 63 the year before that. He said if all goes according to plan, if he's able to, stay in shape and stay healthy, he'd like to play more than that this season.
Which is funny because a lot of fans are actually kind of on board with him playing less games because they feel like that'll help him, come playoff time. But he's saying he wants to play more.
Yeah, I was actually surprised by that too, Mike, and I kind of thought that was part of the motivation to bring Al in was to give Joel a little bit of the games if he wants to sit a game out, you're not taking a huge step back in terms of who the starting center is going to be. So I was actually pretty surprised to hear that too. But at the same time, I mean, knowing Joel, he's always said, he's always a guy that wants to be out there for his team as much as he can. At the end of the day, he's going to go along with, he said how much he's been able to be on the same page with Elton and the coaching staff and the training staff with the Sixers. And it's been like a cumulative thing. At the end of the day, he'll go along with what the team's, in his best effort. But in his mind, he wants to be out there, pretty much as he can.
Well, Mike, the big names, Ben, Joel, Al Horford that you got a chance to hear from today, and Tobias. But I thought one of the more interesting things today was a guy like Matisse Thybulle. What's your role this year? Pretty simple. Play D and hit threes. I mean, it sounds as if at least these guys are coming in knowing what Brown wants them to do.
Yeah, I love that answer, Mike, because at the simplest form, that is exactly what they're going to want from him. And if he does that, in turn, it's going to open up, the opportunity for him to even show what he can do more. But in the short term, he knows it in order to, crack this rotation and to really make a mark on this team. Same with Zaire, similar approach. They have to do, the Sixers need perimeter defenders, and they need guys that can space the floor. And if either one or both of those guys could do that consistently, they have an opportunity to really have an expanded role throughout the season.
MKB, clearly projecting ahead and predicting what this team's going to be like, defense. It's going to be very difficult for opposing teams to score on the Philadelphia 76ers this upcoming year. We hope, at least. All signs point towards that. But it's a different look. There's no more Joel, JJ handoffs. JJ Redick is gone. There's no more your turn, my turn a little bit with Joel and the rest of the guys. How do you see this team fitting in fluidly with each other, and where do you see a potential liability or weak link, if any, or even if it's just weakest of the five and not really weak?
I don't, and not necessarily in an individual sense, but in terms of a weak link, Joel actually kind of touched on it today in terms of losing JJ. And, he was saying that he kind of expects a lot of these other teams now, with especially considering the size of the Sixers, which was, I think, the main thing that really struck, a lot of us today. It was the first time that we saw the entire starting lineup, together at one time in a group. They all had the uniforms on, taking pictures. And they're just huge. I mean, Josh Richardson is the smallest guy at 6'6". Tobias 6'9", Allen and Ben are both 6'10", and Joel's over. I mean, it's a massive starting lineup. So Joel basically was saying that he thinks, teams are going to, try to force them to shoot a lot this year. They obviously don't have JJ, who's one of the best catch and shoot players in the league. They're missing Jimmy, who's a capable perimeter guy. And I think a lot of defenses are going to try to pack the paint against this team, obviously against Ben, but even more, against Tobias, against Joel. They're going to try to make these guys beat them from the perimeter. I think that'll probably be the biggest challenge that the Sixers have, if, to make sure that they have enough perimeter shooting. But it's all going to generate from the defensive end, like you said, Ryan, at the beginning. That was the one thing that, pretty much every Sixer player that got on the podium today, the main thing that they focused on was how good this team could be defensively, and how they're going to look to generate a lot of their offense and basically a lot of their momentum from the size and versatility that they have on the defensive end.
Well, I know Ben was on NBA TV, by the way, just to kind of cap off the conversation with Michael Kaskey Blomain. He says, I was able to be an all-star without a shot last season. Just adding that is a scary thing. That's from Ben Simmons. His words, that he acknowledged, I was an all-star without the shot. Now I've got a shot. Watch out, everybody. We'll see. We'll see if he puts it on display in preseason games, which will be happening soon. The Sixers Media Day today. Training camp opens tomorrow, all this week, and they'll begin, I believe, Tuesday with their first exhibition games. And, of course, we're your home for Sixers basketball. 97.3 ESPN. Well, Michael, congratulations again to you for going national, man. CBS Sports, you can read him there, and at The Real Mike KB. Of course, it was awesome having Michael a part of our team, but that doesn't mean he will be going away. We'll be hearing from him on the air plenty with Sixers insight and analysis. Thank you, pal.
Thanks, fellas. Appreciate it, man. Great talking to you.
Yeah, man. Thanks, man. And Michael Kaskey Blomain, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.